This is IGN. A crossover into relevance. This is your IGN review of NBA 2K25 by Nico Vergara. Over the past few years, developer Visual Concepts' focus on updating online features and adding more microtransactions has left the meat of its annualized basketball series a forgettable merry-go-round of rehashed ideas and uninspired modes. But NBA 2K25 feels different, like a grizzled league veteran and the definition of a perennial starter. There are still gaps in its game, but solid fundamentals and a willingness to adapt help make it a reliable part of any rotation, or in this case, a novel and innovative entry that can win new fans and bring back old heads alike. If the action on the court weren't excellent, no one would have any reason to tolerate the cruft that 2K insists on tacking on around it. Make no mistake, you still can't teach a long-running basketball sim a lot of radical new tricks, and 2K25 is still very recognizable, but that doesn't mean you can't polish it until it becomes as smooth as Steph Curry's buttery jumper. This is where the return of what Visual Concepts calls pro play technology shines. Although it was initially brought on board as part of 2K24, this year's iteration is much better at producing lifelike player animations and motions, so Paul George's fluid jump shot and Jason Tatum's upper body heave look like the actual thing. Visual Concepts' introduction of go-to moves further emphasizes NBA 2K25's focus on realistic player movement. With it, you can recreate your favorite player's iconic signature move, whether it's Nikola Jokic's one-legged sidestep jumper or Donovan Mitchell's bump and step back shot. I especially enjoy using and abusing these moves whenever my play gets broken up or the clock is running down. After all, most of them, like KD's crossover hezzy pull-up, guarantee space creation and an open shot each time. Another interesting new addition is rhythm shooting, which is a completely different and more complex way of scoring middies and threes. But I'll be honest, as someone who's tapped and released square all these years, I initially found it pointless. It just didn't feel like there was an incentive to learn its trickier down-up pro stick motion. But after repeatedly trying both it and the classic shooting method with different jump shot animations, I started preferring rhythm shooting more. Not only because it's more forgiving towards imperfect releases, but also because you can seamlessly transition into dribble moves after faking a shot. Since this was the only new feature in Eras, I immediately turned my attention to the return of My GM, which, to my surprise, has almost turned into an RPG. I emphasize the word almost because its RPG elements feel patchy and incomplete. Upon starting My GM, you can select a pre-made character and choose between 6 different backstories, each with different attributes and perks depending on your preference. I enjoy that this allowed me to imagine a unique rags-to-riches tale for my up-and-coming general manager. For the record, I chose Ex-Scout because I wanted an Eric Spoelstra-like story. Still, the problems with this new RPG direction began once I finished creating my character and got thrust into bizarre conversations with some of my team's staff members. With the new features in My NBA Eras being slightly underwhelming, I was preparing myself for disappointment before diving into the refreshed My Career mode. Oh, how wrong I was! As soon as I started it up for the first time, I was immediately placed into every Hooper's childhood fantasy. It's overtime in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, my team's in the lead, and after choosing my preferred position, team, and appearance, I got to finish the rest of the match for a chance to make history. The more things change, the more they stay the same, and that's never been more true than with NBA 2K25. Although the core gameplay feels familiar, and it most likely always will, a handful of improvements such as go-to moves, rhythm shooting, and shot timing profiles also make it more novel and challenging. My Career remains the most important mode in the series, and I love that the heart of a Dynasty storyline and the return of Street Ball bring a sense of nostalgia and highlight a renewed focus on single-player experiences that I've finally been given reason to hope will be even better next year. Don't get me wrong, microtransactions are still as pervasive and frustrating as ever, particularly when progressing your player online, but at least it doesn't always feel necessary, especially in my team, thanks to the much-needed restoration of the auction house to allow you to earn cards without buying VC. To put it plainly, NBA 2K25 isn't quite on the level of the splashy return of Michael Jordan in 1995. Instead, it feels more like his late career stint with the Washington Wizards. You know what you're getting at this point, but it still has a few tricks up its sleeves that longtime fans like me can be pleasantly surprised by, even as we gripe about long-term issues. NBA 2K25's IGN score? 7. Thanks for listening to IGN. My name is Tony Jackson, and for the latest NBA 2K25 updates, visit us at IGN.com.
Spoken Layer.